Morning.
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 Everybody have a good weekend?
Hmm.
Sweet. Waiting for Chase to hop on. All right, there he is.
Yo,
All right. Well, let's see here. Let's start with a little gratitude. Always the best way to start the day. And then we'll jump into some market information for today. Who or what are you grateful for? Who wants to volunteer?
I'll volunteer. This is only my fourth one of these real estate growth network meetings, and I want to say I am grateful for you guys because you're definitely motivating me to kick start my real estate career. So thank you guys.
Sweet.
nice.
Awesome.
Good to
Good to
see
hear.
you again.
Heck yeah.
All right. Who else?
I'm grateful that I closed my third transaction of the month on Friday.
Nice, dude.
Oh, man.
Congrats. That's awesome.
What are you pacing this year, David?
My pipeline's looking pretty good right now, so I've got one currently in contract, and I probably have five more like solid. I've got two listings coming up and three more buyer agreements that are just waiting to be
Nice.
signed, pretty much.
Did you say you did 5 last year and you're like 10 plus, right?
Yeah, 10 to 12 was kind of my wheelhouse for the first or the last like 5 years before these last 2 years. I got married and I just slacked off. We became a dual income household and just it was just a little different mindset than it should have been.
All right, man. Well, welcome back.
Sweet. All
Anyone
right.
else got some gratitude today?
I do. I'm going to piggyback on whoever spoke first. Gratitude for you guys and all your tools that you've given me. I had a really great win this weekend using all of them like combined. It was really crazy. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay. I got to know the win. What was the win?
Okay, well, I wrote my first offer.
Nice.
Um, yeah, on an all cash deal. And because I didn't go to that festival, actually, because of the conversation that we had on Friday about, is this going to get me closer to my goal? Does this make the boat go faster kind of thing? And I've been doing open houses every weekend and I couldn't get one this weekend. So I was like, okay, well, I have to work somehow. Like, and I've always wanted to go door knocking in my neighborhood. My focus is my neighborhood. And again, like I have very limited time. So my whole setup of my business plan is a little modified, but there was one listing on my it's around the corner from me, and I said, and I asked her to hold it open. She already had somebody, so I said I'm gonna go door knock on Saturday instead of going to that festival, because that festival isn't gonna get me closer to my goal. And I had a brunch on Sunday, which was very like related to networking with the people
Yeah.
I was with. But so I gave that up to go door knocking and I knocked on like over 30 doors. I had at least, so I was tracking and wrote them all down when I got home, like at least 15 plus conversations with people that were over a minute. They'd come out, shut the door, and talk to me. And all I was doing was telling them about that open house. Wasn't calling it my own, but just inviting them and telling them how busy the neighborhood was going to be. And then it was going to lead into my thing. I don't know if you guys would agree with this. That day was not to get any phone numbers or be salesy in any way. It was just because I want to focus on my neighborhood. It was just about building relationship and face to face and having people know me. I had two people invite me in their home. I had like the best day ever. And like on my way home, I was 2.5 hours and I was like, I'm going to stop at Jim Kistler's house. Like I know him, but I'm like, he's not going to buy that house. Already has a great house, but maybe his daughter. So he was my last one when I was tired and hungry. And I went to that one. And I just said, let's one more. It can't hurt. And he was like, okay, do you want me to buy the house? I said, maybe for your daughter, Jim. So anyway, I gave him my card, went home, and then at brunch the next day, he called me. My goal was to go to the open house at 2 because I knew everyone that I met that day was going to be there and just to kind of be again seen. And he called me. He said, "Where are you?" "I'm at the open house." I'm like, "Oh, I'm actually heading back up the hill. I'll be right there." He's like, "I want to write an offer. Do you have a contract on you?"
Wow.
And I was like,
So,
"What?"
Claudia, can I just say this, and I want everybody to hear this, right? And then I want to move into the to our topic, but you took one little piece of information that we taught, which is, does it make the boat go faster? And you made a decision. Now, the difference between the weekend you had versus the weekend you could have had was based on that one decision, which was, you know what? You need your business to move forward. You're not hitting your goal. So you're not going to the thing. You're going to go do the other. You're going to go, look for business. So good job. Congratulations. Appreciate you sharing. And I mean, that's what this is for. You literally just said everything that is the epitome of why we do what we do, which is to give people the small little pieces, the little nuggets that they can insert into their business and get a closing. So good job.
Well, a couple things I
Thank
heard,
you.
Brent, that I think are really important to point out. One is she's like, I'm tired and hungry, but I'm just going to do one more. This guy's not going to buy, is what she said. And then she said hi and whatever. And then all of a sudden, this guy wants to write an offer, which is just crazy. And then a side note, this is not something she mentioned, but when you knock your own neighborhood, it's the easiest script on the planet. You knock on the door and you're like, hey, I'm your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
No one slams a door in their neighbor's face.
It was
So
great.
it's
It was such a great
so easy.
success.
Yeah,
Awesome.
good
I'm
job.
glad I did it. Thank you guys. I want to thank you. I'm grateful for you
Yeah.
guys.
Congrats.
We'll
Well,
see if
should
it
we
gets
dive in?
accepted.
Should we dive into today?
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to kind of read like a little highlight. Or do you want to kick this off, Brent?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Nope. You got it.
So I'll just bring you up to speed, but give me a few minutes just to kind of lay out the landscape here. So this week, the Chicago MLS made a move that could impact how agents across America access listings, pay dues, and compete for inventory. So what happened in Chicago might not stay in Chicago. Over the last year, real estate has been under pressure from multiple angles. So obviously, been commissions around lawsuit. There's been commission lawsuits, which is, hopefully mostly settled. It's still happening, but the National Association of Realtors lost a lot of leverage and trust. Brokerages are wanting more control. Tech companies want listing power. Consumers want more transparency and options, and agents are questioning every fee they pay. So, what did the Chicago MLS do? Number one, they expanded the MLS access beyond traditional realtor-only structure, meaning they licensed agents may gain broader MLS access without needing the same board membership. So you don't have to be a member of the board anymore to get access to the MLS, which is that's new. They've expanded the private listing and pre-market options. So homes may be marketed privately or internally before going fully public. So why does this matter? Because for years, the model was simple. Join the association, pay the dues, get the MLS access, list it publicly. Now that model is being challenged. So what could this mean nationally? If more MLSs follow, agents may reevaluate dues and value. There might be more private inventory competition. Listing strategies become even more important, which I think is 100% accurate. Consumers are going to want more guidance. Strong agents will win more. Average agents can get squeezed. So what matters most for us? Obviously, we can't control the industry change. We can control our skill, relationships, database, trust, speed, communication, and the value that we bring to our clients. So the best agents adapt faster than others complain. So this is really interesting because, in the broader landscape too, Compass, you guys know, is in this battle to take listing or to allow their listings to go private. That's happening right now. They're battling it out with Zillow. I'll let you guys Google all that or go to ChatGPT and figure out what's going on there. But I think there's a couple questions I wanted to talk about, and we wanted to bring this more to the group. So what kind of questions and thoughts do you guys have around all of this? So the first one is private listings, Brent. That's the one I just want to open up to the group. There seems to be, I don't know what the divide is. It's probably like 80-20. 80% of the agents think a private listing is absolutely the worst possible thing you could do for a seller. And 20% think that that's not 100% accurate. So what do you guys think? Let's talk private listing. Basically, you're marketing a property without putting it on the MLS. What do you guys think about that? What's the pros? What's the cons?
I definitely think the cons is like you're not getting the exposure that you need. I mean, unless you're doing like a private that's out on Zillow, when Zillow's the biggest platform in the world for real estate and you don't market on there, like that's gonna hurt. Now on the flip side, the pros are like you can double side a lot of transactions.
So he's saying the pro for the realtor, and specifically, I'd like to say the pros and the cons for the consumer. Angela's got her hand raised. What do you got, Angela?
Sorry, that dang mute button. Well, with some stuff like land development deals, builder opportunities, if it's on the market, they won't look at it. So I think there's a really good opportunity for private listings over public in some scenarios, and just the same thing. I mean, if it's a standard residential home, we need the whole United States to be able to see it in that scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah. So what Angela's saying, there's scenarios where it might make sense. Go ahead, Britt.
Well, I think a way to think about it, the MLS typically is leaning into consumer protection, and investors, builders, developers don't really fall into that camp traditionally in my experience. Meaning commercial real estate has completely different rules. Like you don't even have to put it in the MLS. You can put it wherever you want. You can keep it private. You can do whatever you want. But the question is when you unpack commercial real estate, has anybody ever unpacked that? Like has anybody ever like looked for real estate commercial wise? Like it's very disjointed. It's very hard to find. You need a professional to go out and find it, but is that serving the client the best? That's hard to say. It's really hard to say how it's benefiting anybody other than the industry itself. Like you have to go use a commercial agent most of the time if you want to try to find what you're looking for.
I think there is a place for private listings if you have a high profile client, or if have a client that values their privacy and only, wants it marketed in certain places. It allows you to have more control over, who gets to see it. And yeah, I mean, not everyone wants pictures of their home blasted all over the internet.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the pros and cons, I mean, an obvious con is, if you don't put it on the MLS is probably the best way to get exposure. So the downside to the seller is you might, if you don't use the MLS, there's a very real possibility that you're not going to get the most amount of buyers, right? That's pretty obvious. What's the opposite of that, though? Like, what's the benefit? I think depends on the market, but I can speak personally because before the rules existed, we would market properties before we'd put them on the MLS. Mm-hmm. And we fully intended to put them on the MLS. In fact, we put most of them on the MLS, but what we did was we built up a lot of excitement on the property before it went on the MLS. Now, in the event you get an offer prior to listing, do you think the buyer has much negotiation room? No, because you have the threat of putting it on the market. So I think it's actually debatable. Like, you might be able to get the most amount of money. It's a possibility. I think it's at the very least, it's an academic debate. It's a very real possibility. You could get more money not going on the MLS.
I'll give you my two thoughts around it. First thought is the challenge with today's market is they're presenting it as a good option and possibility in any market and as a program. So they're like, hey, this is, you trust me, you want to use our brokerage because we have this private exclusive option before you go whatever, and this is how we release it. I think that's actually damaging to the seller because the reality, what you're explaining, Chase, the reality is in certain markets it makes sense, or in certain scenarios it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense as a whole to all consumers in every market. So here's what I mean by that. The two different types of scenarios I think it works in. In today's market, I think it works in very unique properties that you don't know what the price is. It's hard to determine what the price is. You use the preview or the coming soon to test the market reaction. Now, in marketing, we use data to determine price. Sometimes the price helps you get the data. So that's a scenario today. But what you were alluding to, Chase, is in the old market, when it was fast, when it was moving fast, you didn't have time to get enough exposure. Meaning if you put it on the MLS, like it was pending a day later or 2 days later, you didn't have enough time to expose it to the most amount of people. So in that instance, you would use coming soon to build up the amount of people that knew about it. So if anybody needed to get their ducks in a row, their financing set up, whatever, you had more people interested in the house by the time you went live on the MLS, and then you had more people through, more leverage for the seller, top dollar type
Well,
scenario.
I think the
So-
other thing to keep in mind too is not all realtors are created equal, right? So let's say I'm marketing a property private and I have, I don't know, let's just say I have a distribution list and people actually, agents, an agent distribution list, and people actually see my stuff. That probably gives my seller a big edge versus the other agent who doesn't have that distribution list, right?
Right.
And so you can't say like, oh yeah, private MLS, or sorry, not private MLS, but a private listing is in your best interest, and it's always the case. So I think the debate, from a lot of leadership that I actually agree with is disclosure. Like sellers need to 100% understand what they're agreeing to if they don't put it on the MLS. So let's open it up with maybe like a group discussion question. Brent, do you have one of those that's your favorite?
Well, I mean, to me, I mean,
We
there's
got
so
like 20
many.
questions. So
I know there's so many good ones.
well, here's one. I'll just tee this up. If MLS access becomes easier, what changes for you guys?
Yeah.
If you don't have to be a member of an association to join the MLS, how does that change things for you?
We wouldn't have to pay the dues. I mean, really, is that how that's gonna go? But or be a member of NAR, but I don't know. That's not really beneficial. I don't know.
Well, maybe save money. Kyle, go ahead.
I think it opens the door for way more competition as agents, like out of market. Like, you know, I'm 5 hours away from you guys down in Boise, and there's still Boise agents that will drive up here to show a property. And it's like, that doesn't make financial sense for me personally, but it's like, if they're open to all these MLSs, like they're going to go expand for like the agents that maybe aren't as busy that are like looking for that deal. And so I think it just gives you more competition. And then I mean, legally, like you're representing a client that you're not familiar with the area, which is like an ethics thing. Like people come up here and they don't know nothing about the property or location or anything. And so I think it gets messy.
Yeah.
Bill.
But isn't ethics an association thing? So if they're not even a part of the BRR, like how do you go after them for ethical violations?
Well, that's an interesting question. Bill, go ahead, and then we can talk about ethics. But I think the associations are in trouble. That's what I think personally. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chase. I think the barrier of entry becomes easier, right? And it's slowly kind of gotten that or headed that way with Zillow and the MLS. We don't control the MLS as much as we used to anymore. So competition goes up, right? So you have a lot more, or easier access to that. Buyers are more informed today than they ever have been, and this is just going to continue, to kind of go that way. And so you just have to elevate your game and your skills and set yourself apart. But I think the barrier of entry just became easier and is slowly becoming easier.
Brent, if the MLSs aren't associated with the associations, like, what's to stop Google from saying, "Hey, list your stuff with us. We'll get you a lot of exposure." And you have this fragmentation of this distribution center.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. And here's what I think about here's how I think about this. And, for some people on this call, maybe this is exciting. For some, maybe it's not. But I think the opening up of MLSs, I think private listings, I think portals saying, hey, you can list directly through here. I think that adds more complication. And I think the more complication that you add, the more value you can provide as an agent. Like for so long, what I would hear, if anybody's ever seen a post online about a realtor post something and then all the hate they get in their comments, it's people being like, agents are useless. Like if it wasn't for the MLS, like guarding the listing, you wouldn't have a job. That's been their take. I actually think it's the opposite. I think the more complicated it gets to list a property and to get different types of exposure, and maybe Google says we're not going to syndicate anymore. You have to list directly with us. Who knows? But if that happens, then professionals are going to be much more in demand. And I guess the question is would technology solve that, or does the professional who helps the consumer navigate it solve that?
Well, I hate to open up an even bigger can of worms, but I think this is worth mentioning, like from a moat perspective. Like if I hire a realtor and they put a lockbox on my door, I know, well, at least I could be taught. I know that every person who has access to that lockbox has been fingerprinted. They have background checks. I know that, from a criminality standpoint, like they're good. So, who's going to maintain that? I mean, I guess that's the real estate commission's job, I guess. So maybe that's protected there. And then we open the doors. Maybe that has nothing to do with the associations at all. But I think there is this like fragmented piece, like it's just another chip into the industry that's going to make it. I think it's going to give certain people an edge, which goes to the adaptation people. Just like, I mean, believe it or not, you guys might forget this, but Brent and I being coaches and leading real estate agents for as long as we have, there are a lot of agents who are not in the business today because of the National Association of Realtors Commission lawsuit. They got out. They just said, this is too hard, I'm out. I'm not asking people to pay me. Like, right, Brent? I mean,
Yeah.
You guys, if you've been in the business long enough, if you think, you probably know an agent or two who left because of that. A lot of them left beforehand. So as this stuff happens and it changes the way we do business, you could actually see more agents, entering and more agents exiting too. So we need to be able to adapt.
I think change is good personally. And I think the more versed we are, the better you have. Here's an example. Go back to the NAR lawsuit. The people that did the best through the noise and following it, who not only adapted but did the best, they knew how to explain commission to a buyer and they knew how to get a buyer representation agreement signed. Those people excelled. And partly why it wasn't a problem for us because we've just been doing it for years, but that's the people, the people that I'm coaching are the people that I'm training. The ones that excelled are the ones that learned how to adapt before the change happened. So I think all of us need to explore, like, if things open up, if private listings become a thing, like, how are you going to incorporate that into your business? How are you going to explain it to clients? How are you going to explain why they would or why they wouldn't do it? And if you don't know how to do that, then the agent, if you're interviewing, for instance, if someone is interviewing and they explain it and you don't, this person has an edge on you. Whether you think they do or don't, they do because they're more knowledgeable. They're
think-
gonna
I,
give
I
more
think
insight.
Alex had something, Brent.
Go ahead, Alex.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say it just sounds to me like accessibility to the real estate market overall is becoming easier, and it's almost like they're trying to streamline it into an AI platform where exactly like you say, where Zillow or Google will be the two available platforms for you to list or buy. And then, I mean, it sounds to me like you're not gonna need a license even to be able to just list your house in one of these platforms. Or is that am I understanding that wrong?
I think if it's your house, you don't need a license.
Well, I mean, you don't need a license to list on Zillow right now. You can
Right.
FSBO, right? So that's not going to change. Is that going to make it easier for people to FSBO? I mean, you still have the same issues, right? Like who gets in my house? How do I coordinate that? How do I negotiate? How do I write contracts? How do I make sure they're qualified? Like, so I think that's still going to exist, but what I could see is like if Google comes along, I can guarantee you there's going to be 10 or 20 others that come along and say, list with us, list with us. And then we'll probably go back to like one distributing portal, which might be like the new MLS. And we're like,
Right.
I just want to list with all of them. Click a button.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll have to see, but I do think it's this this might be a good point to bring up the circle of influence, Brent.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a good, let's land the plane with that.
Okay, cool. We probably need a whiteboard because we need to like see it. Is that
Yeah, let's do it.
all right? Let me see if I can figure out the whiteboard. Oh, there it is. All right. So I want to remind you guys, this is this will be fun here. So let's do that. And then let's do that. Oh, wait, can you make that see-through?
I have no
What
idea.
up, dude?
Nice. Good job.
And then we'll do one more bigger one. So you have these three circles. And the center one is control. And then the next one out is influence. And then the last one is concern. And so we always like to ask, like, what can you control?
What do you
can
guys think you're in control of?
Myself.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't control your kids, can't control your spouse, can't control your clients, you can't control interest rates, can't control MLSs. You have no control over that. Right? Then you have influence. So who can you influence?
You can influence. You can influence clients. You can influence your kids. You can influence MLSs. You can influence.
Sure.
Right.
Social media. Right.
Yeah.
You have influence over those things. Then you have concern, and concern would be something you have zero influence over.
So zero control, zero influence.
Interest rates. How Compass decides to do their listings.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like what MLSs do, how the National Association of Realtors responds,
Lawsuits.
blah, 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 blah. So I would argue those people who left the industry a few years ago because of the NAR lawsuit, they spent the majority of their time living in this circle of concern. Right? That's where they spent most of their time, is right here in this circle of concern. But really, we should be spending like 80-90% on ourselves, and then the remaining 10 to 20% in influence, and then maybe, I don't know, 0 to 5% in concern. Like, be aware of it, but don't obsess. And, you know, Brent and I both thought it was pretty important to bring this up to you guys because you're probably hearing it and seeing it elsewhere. We certainly don't have the answers at all. Like, we have no idea. We're just kind of talking. Just that's why we wanted to open it up to you guys. But I would just remind you, this is one of those moments where we want to be aware, but you know, you right now focus on exactly what we mentioned earlier. Those things you actually do control: skill, relationship, database, trust, speed, communication, and the value you bring to your clients. As long as you're doing all of that, it doesn't really matter where you put your listings, right?
And this may be the conversation that MLSs are having right now is, all right, well, now that there is could be more competition for MLSs, maybe they're gonna think about how to bring better value to the people that are using their platform. Because right now, most MLS, well, the MLS that I'm a part of, it's like kind of trash, you know, in terms of UI or
It's a
UX
monopoly.
and
You have to use
yeah,
them. You have no choice if you're a realtor.
yeah.
So yeah, it's forced in their hands. Same with the National Association of Realtors, right? You don't really have a choice. So all right. Well, you probably have more questions than answers, but focus on those circles, right? You focus on what you can control yourself and what you can influence. So great. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for coming. See you
See you
tomorrow.
guys tomorrow. Take care.